Better than Sky.
Yeah, how you doing, Sky? Rough morning? Okay. um, all right, so I want to go through before we get started today. First of which is just an update on where you're at with the to-do list, like what you're working on currently, so I get some idea of what you're doing. So Ben, you wanna?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I'm done with my to-do list. I don't have edit functionality to save the backend, but
Okay.
I just kind of moved on from that to
Okay.
Stencil.
Okay.
And so I'm doing bingo leaderboard. I have that one component that can add names and add scores.
Okay. And then I just kind of got an update from Logan. Sky. I mean, everything's
I was
broken.
done.
Okay. All right. Well, that's the important thing. So,
I'm done with the Rails part of to do.
okay, so it's actually doing the persistence and stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. That's
I
awesome.
think I can have it like redone before lunch.
Okay. You can. That's totally fine. We can also probably move on if you want, so you can. This. All right. It's on you.
I hate that feeling.
All right.
I'm just doing an amazing project.
All right. I hear you. Up to you.
Just to lunch.
We'll still, yeah, it's fine. We're still gonna have cool projects though, so don't worry about it. By the time we finish this internship, you're gonna be like, why would I want to show that? But all right, so let's. I want to do some review of the stencil stuff that we went over last time. What we're gonna start doing this week is, since you guys got the to-do list going, you guys got some of the bingo leaderboard going. We're actually going to do this week is work primarily on getting a very simple part of syllabi done, which is just creating courses, which is more or less the same thing that you were doing with the bingo board or that we were doing with the to-do list. We're going to do this as an individual project. We're going to set up the stencil side of things, and you're going to try and make it look all pretty with stencil, and then you're going to connect it to a back end with Rails and have it do the persistence of the courses. And that's all it's really going to be. I'm going to give you guys access to, or Logan, if you can just give everybody access to the Google Drive folder that has like the mock-ups in it. It's really, you're just doing the course page. So it's going to list courses. I'll try to bring it up here so you can take a look.
Are we using the bingo leaderboard now that we've got the
Well, so that's what I had some people doing because they got a little ahead. It's all the same. So it's the same concept. Like if you went and did the bingo leaderboard, it's just you're gonna do it again with syllabi, right? And then again with. So we're gonna do this process of basic CRUD stuff like 4 or 5 times before the internship's over. So if you didn't get to the bingo board, it's no big deal. I just want to go to syllabi because really I want to get you guys working together as quickly as possible. And so I want to do one round where everybody does the same thing of creating the courses for syllabi, and then next week you guys will start working together and you'll do the exact same thing again, but you'll do it together. And then we might expand that project out a little bit that week just so that people aren't running over each other's feet. And then the week after that, we may continue with syllabi. More likely we're going to go to something else, whether it's an idea that you guys have that you want to work on, like some cool project, or I can give you guys a project of something that we would like to do. Yeah, you want to take them out? All right, we can totally do that. And basically what that's going to be is just doing research on what they do and how they do it and reproducing the same product. And we'll largely let you guys lead and run that. The first couple of weeks of meetings that you're going to be doing around that, I'm going to sit in them. We're going to basically move this instruction time to being a time of meetings. So we'll start doing basic agile stuff. So we'll go over what Scrum and Agile are and how those meetings should be run. You guys are going to be leading it largely. I'm going to be there in more of an instruction helping role. But once we get to that point, so not this week, maybe not next week. So next week we'll probably do some of the Scrum stuff, but I'll lead it. I'll give you guys the issues and exactly what you need to do so you get some like example of what the stuff's supposed to look like. And then the week after that, you guys will take over and say, okay, so you're going to be the product team and the dev team at a minimum, and you can start thinking a little bit as a sales team and like, how do we actually make money off of this thing? Okay. But from the product sales side, you'll be in control of, okay, our goal is to take out these guys that you visit, and you're going to just go there and you're going to go check out what they do and try and come up with issues of things that you need to replace in terms of functionality, and then you'll just start building it out. Okay, assigning the issues out to each other, and you'll be a little dev team on your own, a little dev/product team on your own. Okay, cool. All right, should be pretty sick. All right. So let me go ahead and pull up stencil, and then we're gonna, the syllabi project. I'll show you exactly what it is that you need to be doing, and then the rest of this class we're just gonna spend on stencil. We're just gonna more or less go over the same kind of things we did last time. We're just gonna do it a little bit slower, and now that you guys have had some experience with it, hopefully you have some questions and we can try to walk through. All right. So we'll get this shared out with everybody. Logan should have access to share it with everyone.
I put the link in the
Slack. Yeah. If you don't have access for some reason, we'll figure it out. All right. But essentially, you're going to want to create this screen. So we're going to have a little footer. You can set all that up. You're going to have a header that says my courses. You're going to have a card that says business administration with some color on it. Management 100, name. Put syllabus and assignments. You're not actually going to connect the syllabus and assignments, but make it all look like this. And then there's the flow goes, okay, so here's a list of these things, and then I can click on it. And when I click on it, it should take me to an edit screen that looks like this, where I have a form that I can fill out for the course name, management, section, term, instructor. So those are the things that are going to persist. Instead of just being one field that's like the name of the to-do list item, you just have 5 fields for those things. But make it look like this. Again, you don't have to worry about the syllabus uploads and the assignments. You can still put them there to make it look like this, but it's not going to be functional. The point is just to be able to fill this information out and then have the card show up. There's a little plus button down here too that's set up. That GIF is or the SVG for that is available in the assets in the syllabi folder, as well as any other assets you might need. But like here's the little plus button, so you can use that.
I have the folder, but there's nothing inside assets.
What? It's blank, or it says you don't have access. Refresh it. Are other people able to get to it? Okay. All right. That's pretty much it. There is an example of how to get those colors for the card, so letting them choose the color. Here, there's a little color palette that you'll just create a bunch of avatars and tables and make that. This is the more advanced set though, so start simple. Just do the part that I've talked about so far. This is the okay, if you get that done, then maybe go create a color palette so that you can make it actually have a little line. And then similarly, if you get far enough along, then the next set is to try and create a basic login, which Logan's already done an example of and could probably help you through, but that's sort of the next step. The expectation is that by next Monday, you have this very basic just app up. You have a stencil app that looks like syllabi, that has this list that has the cards for each of your courses, and you can click on them and edit them, and you can add new ones and you can delete them. Okay. The way that delete is set up, I think, is that yeah, there's just a button on the form that says delete course that you use to delete it. So that's the goal. Any questions about that?
And then you said this is all connected to Rails.
Yeah, so you'll do the front end in Stencil, the back end in Rails, and yeah, actually persistent and all of that. If it doesn't get done by Monday again, it's not the end of the world. Don't freak out. That's the goal. Okay, we'll check in on Monday and see where everybody is, and then we'll adjust accordingly. Make sense? All right. Back to Stencil. And this is all video recorded, so if you're getting any of that, you can always go back to this. There is also syllabi.io, I believe, is up. As a
You
thing.
can look at mine if you want.
Yeah, what's the...
It's syllabi.loganvorhees.com. My last name has 2 O's and 2 U's though.
.com?
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Create an account.
I would love for it to break in front of everybody. That would be great.
Well, given my own history, there's pretty high probability of that. So, all right, and then you can go to the courses and then add a course.
Like the placeholder.
Yeah, I think that's
just
what's in the
copied it.
mocks.
Yeah.
Because I think Spencer thought it would be funny. I am a doctor, but
Oh.
PhD
Or
doctor.
PhD.
Yeah, PhD doctor. All right, so yeah, but yeah, it looks like it's working pretty well. Actually, upload a syllabus.
Oh, I need to change that. You have to press the plus, I think.
Oh, here I see.
I need to change the link. The other thing. Oh no. Alright, that's not working.
Well, that just makes me feel better that like you actually did the work. Because if nothing broke, I would have honestly been a little suspect. But yeah, that's great. This looks beautiful. This is exactly what you're trying to reproduce. More button doesn't do anything yet, but can you actually edit this thing?
Yeah.
Can you change the avatar? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
look at that. Yeah, look at that. Pretty beautiful.
How long did this take you?
Several weeks. Many weeks.
Yeah. So yeah, so looking at started a week before you guys. At the end of the first week, I think you had the to-do lists done. I think you did, just
Yeah,
or
like
maybe
the
the very
JavaScript
beginning of the
one.
next one. Yeah, right. And then you did the bingo board, and then yes, for at least the last couple weeks, he's been working on this, but it's still pretty impressive timeline-wise as an individual. What's going to be interesting too for Logan in particular is given how quickly you got through the stuff as an individual, when you go to work on a team, you're going to be like, what is happening? Because
Yeah.
you're going to
And
slow
I
down.
did
at
not
first.
really use Git, like pushing and stuff at
Uh-huh.
all. So that's what I need to do next.
Yeah.
Is learn how to do that more.
Yeah, it's important, especially if you can create pull requests for major feature sets. It makes it a lot easier than, so if you have to use that same sort of feature set again, you can just go look at Git at that pull request and just copy and paste the stuff over, which is nice.
What is
All right.
syllabi.io?
Syllabi.io is this too.
I think that's just
Syllabi.io is what they created over the summer. So this is from the
So
summer.
that was them as a group.
This is them as a group. Which
takes a
Has
long
it
time,
already been
I
like
think,
sent
because
to
we're
schools?
what's
Schools
that?
used it already?
What's that?
Do like schools use this?
No, we didn't. So I actually never expected that I never expected that we would necessarily use it. This is a thing that we actually built 2 years ago. They were trying to make as an open source thing for people to be able to use. Where we got to with the interns last time was like almost there. Like if we had another 3 or 4 weeks, we probably could have gotten it all the way to, yeah, let's make this thing live in the App Store for people to use, and it'll become like a thing that is just for any individual who's on the App Store searches for syllabus thing to use. But we didn't quite get there, and we have too many pressing things that we have to do for the real product to be able to finish it out. So it's not quite in a good enough state. It's okay, but there's a couple of things that are missing. One is it is on Heroku, and when you're on Heroku, with the free tier anyway, it takes a few minutes to get the rail server to spin back up. So if nobody's using it for 30 minutes, they shut the server down until they get a request, and then they bring the server back up. So that's not great from like actual usability. So we'd want to deploy that on AWS with scalable pods, and they just haven't learned. They still haven't quite learned that yet because we've had them doing more stencil things because that's what they're familiar with. We will start doing some DevOps stuff for Kubernetes. We might actually invite you guys to just be a part of that as well in the mornings. It's mostly for Nathaniel and I to learn as Brendan takes off. We're gonna need to know how to do this stuff, or I'm gonna need to know how to do this stuff. Did we talk to you guys about Nathaniel yet? He's okay. So just to give everybody a heads up on where we are personnel wise. Brendan let us know that he's going to be retiring essentially in February. He is going to have a baby, and he's going to take off and go take care of the baby, which is pretty awesome. Nathaniel is just got offered an opportunity to be a co-founder at another startup with one of his friends. So he's going to go off and do that. So that's part of why he's going to be doing the Kubernetes stuff, because he should be learning some things that he might end up using when he goes to the next place. But he's going to be gone 4 weeks from now. So then it's me and you guys. So we're going to, and my weakest point is the DevOps piece, because I've always had Brendan around to help manage that. So we're going to get a little bit better about that. So we might actually invite you guys to be a part of that. But it'll be very much like just immersion into the concept. So like if we do that, it's probably not like a ask question type thing. It's more like a get whatever you can out of this, because we're trying to walk through it pretty quickly so that we can get some, so mostly so that I can learn what I need to do to make it a reality. But if you guys are at least you'll see the terms Kubernetes and pods and Docker, and like we can talk a little bit about what those things are.
So are you going to replace him with that system instead of a person?
No. I don't know. I can answer that a lot better tomorrow probably. I'm struggling, teetering back and forth in terms of whether we hire somebody, a senior person. We brought somebody in last Friday who seemed like he could do a pretty good job. It would be a great replacement for like Nathaniel. He doesn't have the ops experience that Brendan has, but it's hard to find people with the ops experience that Brendan has.
Isn't it just software engineering, or?
Yeah, which he does DevOps stuff too, where we need him, but he has about the same level of knowledge that I do. He's not like a DevOps person. Yeah. Brendan isn't either. Brendan just knows a billion things. So anyway,
are you looking for somebody who specialized in the cloud and knows how to do
no, like we're gonna be fine. Like, so we have Brendan until February. We're gonna do this purposeful instruction. In 2 weeks, I'll know everything he knows. Like seriously, it's okay. I just haven't spent 2 weeks on it, so we just have to be more dedicated about it. We do potentially need another senior developer, mostly because it's me and you guys, and like I have lots of other responsibilities, so I don't have the time to be able to like do this and do code review and do all the other duties that I'm responsible for to make sure that like the legacy systems are running and the new stuff's running and we're getting a product roadmap out and all of that stuff. So mostly to help train you guys, it'd be really nice if there was somebody who was more senior, who had more experience, who could help you along the way. On the other side of that, so when you hire somebody who's senior, they often have a lot of their own opinions and background and culture and all of that, and they're expensive. And so it's like to bring somebody in who is senior and get them on board and oriented in the right direction takes some time and resources and all of that. And so it's like does it make sense to do that, or does it make sense to just train you guys until February, and then hopefully there's enough senior people who pop out of that we're okay. So it's very much, I don't know. Tomorrow I'll have to have an answer, so I'll let you know when we decide tomorrow. All right.
You better go with that.
Well, we're going with so either way we're going with you guys. It's just a question of whether we can have, if there's enough senior level talent to be able to say, okay, now we're going to have some of you guys move into more senior roles and some of you guys will remain in the like still learning junior role stage, or or if that's not a long enough timeline to get you guys where we need you to be at a senior level position. That's really what it's about. Whereas like I could go like this guy we talked to on Friday, he's been doing this for it's been his career, he's been doing it for 14 years. So he knows how to code. And he's been coding for a really long time. So like I could bring him in and he can at least teach you some of the basics and things you should know about and help you make sure you don't make those really big mistakes that we all make as junior devs, like accidentally dropping a table or a database or not accidentally pushing master or like losing all of your code or what, like all of these things that like you learn just over time. And that's the big thing for me is like if you guys like in 2 or 3 years, you guys all have talent, like where we very well could be moving you guys there. It's just that timeline is very accelerated when we're talking about February. So that's really the question. But I can hire more of you guys if we don't hire a senior dev. So I have to figure out. Anyway. All right. Let's see. And not just you guys. So don't feel like we may end up hiring everyone out of this. It's more... If we don't hire a senior dev, then we're definitely going to do a spring and another summer of interns. And so we might just rotate it that way. But still thinking about it.
So what's Justin's position? Is he senior dev?
So Justin's a junior dev.
Junior dev.
Yeah. And so is Daniel. And both of them are learning relatively fast. But they're still not, like this is for both of them their first like professional job as a developer. And so they haven't had all the experience. They'll catch up. All right. Yeah. All right. So back to Stencil. All right, so we have our Stencil project from last time. I'm just gonna get it started, and we're just gonna go look through a few things. Mostly, I'm gonna ask you guys to explain what's happening as a review of what we did last time. And hopefully some more of these things will sink in along the way. All right. So when I load it up, it looks like this. I want to go through the process though of figuring out how I could follow the code to figure out where the screen is coming from. In other words, if you knew nothing about this website except that it was a stencil project, maybe not even that, maybe just that it's a web page, but you did know that it was being run because you ran npm start inside of this directory, my first stencil. Where would I go to figure out where, like why does it say same Birk? That's really what I'm trying to figure out. Okay. Yep, and I'll follow whatever you guys want to say. But I want to figure out why it says Sam Birk. I want to change, let's put it this way. I want to change Sam Birk to Grace Birk. How do I do that?
Inspect page.
Okay.
So can you go over hover over the top, and then just keep going to the directories.
Into these, you mean?
Yeah.
You ever seen that before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Useful.
so this is Shadow DOM.
Yeah.
So and you probably have. So you're on the right track. This is a great. Really, you're doing a shortcut of what I was trying to get to, but that's fine. With the Shadow DOM, you don't actually have the element in the HTML where you would expect it to be. If you click on this reveal, it shows you where it actually is. So you can then go down and keep clicking it. So we're getting close. And this one. And then I unlabel, reveal. There we go. Alright, so I can change this to Grace. Did it, but that was cheating, right? So how do I actually change? How do I actually find the code?
So guess you'd start with like whatever your URL is, and you're at the root, so you want to start at index.html.
Yeah, so the way we would follow this in the code is to start at index.html, which is in where? Source.
Yeah, so
So then index.html looks like this. So this is just a bunch of head stuff that's saying, hey, include some scripts and some links and make some things pretty for search engines, etc.
So now you want to go follow AppRoot.
Yeah, but AppRoot's the only real thing in the body, so we want to go find AppRoot. Where does AppRoot live? Components, and then which of these files?
TSX.
Yeah, TSX. All right. So now, what's the first thing that gets called in the stencil component? Render. So we're going to start at the render function, and it's going to return ion app, ion router, 2 routes. Okay. So what are these 2 routes? What are they doing? Like, what does this one do?
That's going to show up first. So that's your index.
That's your index. Slash is your index. So slash nothing is going to do what?
Take you to render your app home.
The renders app home because the component sets app home. So where do I go find app home?
Same place you find AppRoot in the component.
Yep, so there's app home CSX.
Render
Okay.
function comes
Render comes first. That says ion header, some home nonsense. Ion content calls this.render people. Follow that up. It says if not this.show people. What's show people at this point in time? True. So we're going to keep going. Turn this.people. What's people? It's you're 2 people. It's
array of two.
An array of two people.
array of 2 people, array of objects. Yep. Where the first one is Sam, and the second one is Josh. And then it's going to return person item. What is this thing? With person as an attribute. So what is person? Where do I find person item?
That's probably another. That's probably
Another component, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably another component. Yep. Person item. And in there, I have a property person, which is what we're setting here. Person is going to be person, which person here is going to be either this object with Sam Birk or this object with Josh Birk. And then I'm going to create an item and a label. I'm going to print out the first name and the last name of the person. Okay.
So which one was the prop and so this prop is person and where does that get passed into the apple?
So the attribute person.
That's that one.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the whole, yeah, so person passes
That's
the whole.
prop.
Person is the
Person
prop.
yellow is the prop. Okay.
Yep. So if I name this blue,
That would be okay, gotcha.
then this has to be blue.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then this would have to be blue, and that would have to be blue. Yeah. Okay.
Because the object is coming from the parameter in Apple. Maybe when you pass it in person.
Yeah.
So that's
Person is this person,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is what we're looping over. So this could be. Yeah, I know it's hard. This is what I was talking about even very early on in JavaScript about parameters and the variables and their names and what's happening there. It's very hard for some reason for us to like wrap our heads around that. Doesn't. Once you start to get it, it becomes obvious. But the names of these things don't matter. It's just a placeholder. It's saying, well, whatever gets passed into here, I want to reference as P inside of my. Yeah, and this becomes particularly complicated in terms of keeping track of it in your head because most of the time people do nice things when they're writing code. So like I name it person equals person, and then you're like, well, which one's
Yeah.
person? And over time, like with code, you're just like, oh, obviously the thing on the left is not the thing that's coming from above because that would be assignment, and you wouldn't be. And so it starts to become clear what's happening. Colors help too. But but that's a hard thing because I'm doing a nice thing, really, from a coding perspective. Because I'm like, of course, I'm setting person to person because really I'm just passing person through. I don't want to rename it to something else because that's silly. It's a person.
That's conventional.
Yeah, that's convention to use the same. Yep. But it does create confusion because then you see the same word multiple times. It doesn't matter. All right. So follow that all the way through. So that's good. So now when I click on show hide people, the people show and hide. So why is that happening? Yep, so let's walk through that, specifically what's happening when I click on the button.
So on click
Yep.
at the bottom,
Yep.
we're toggling show people.
So it calls this function toggle show people, which is going to set this dot show people equal to not this dot show people. So if we start with show people being true, what is this dot show people after we click on the button? False. And then if we click on the button again, true. And then we click on the button again, false. Yeah.
Is it a loop or?
It's not a loop because it just does it the one time. So when I click on it, it says this dot show people equals not this dot show people. So now this dot show people is true, but I haven't clicked on it a second time. Or it goes from true to false, but I haven't clicked on it again. So that's it. It re-renders. So what's really going to happen is it says on click this dot show people. I'm going to click on the button. Button's going to call this. This dot show people is going to be changed from true to false or false to true. In our case, let's say it's going from true to false. So this dot show people is now false. It was true. So what's going to happen next in terms of code execution?
So it's going to go up to the if not shown.
Nope, not quite yet. What's the next thing that happens as soon as this dot show people changes?
Renders.
It renders. It calls render again. Why does it call render again?
It's the state is changing.
Because a variable that's annotated with state has changed. In other words, if I did this, nothing's going to happen.
So it just becomes false and then.
It just becomes false. The variable becomes false, but render doesn't get called again.
So you'll still see the people on the
You'll still see the people. So it won't do anything. It's only going to call render again because that variable is annotated with this at state thing. Okay. It's important because otherwise you're going to get, things aren't going to work when you expect them to. All right. So state, something on state changes, show people changed from true to false. So now we call render. Render gives us a header. It calls render people. We go up to render people. Render people says if this dot show people, which is now false, so we're going to return. So we're not going to give back any of this. In other words, this might as well be that. Okay, because it gives back nothing. So then, but we still show the button, and then we click on the button again. Now show people changes from false to true. That calls render again, shows the header, shows the content, calls render people. At this point, we don't return because this dot show people is true, so we render each person item back again. Okay, that's why that's happening. Does that make sense? Beautiful magic. And then there's real things that are happening in the background that we could go into, but if you can just understand that that's why that's happening, that when a state variable changes, we recall render, it's going to be a beautiful world that you live in. Okay. All right. So we can show hide, show hide, show hide, show hide. All right. Questions about any of that stuff? Questions from when you've been working with stencil stuff at this point about state, properties, render, tag names, any of that.
So, like for instance, for the bingo, like obviously we have like a form and then a list. Like, should those always be two separate components, or like is it too small?
Usually a form and a list are two separate components. They're usually actually two separate pages or modal. Now in your case, for in the case of the bingo, like the way that they did it in the last class, It's so simple because the only thing that you're doing is adding a person and then you're just iterating up and down. That's really all you're doing. So it's so simple that they put them all in line.
Okay.
For most people who worked on it, but in many cases, most forms are more than 2 elements,
Okay.
and so you would do like its own page and just run it that way. Does it matter if I change this class name to be nonsense?
No.
You
No.
have to match in your components. Like, it can't be app home.tsx anymore. It's got to be blah blah.
Nope.
Good.
Everything works fine. So, it should be app home convention. I'm just getting back to that point of convention. It should be app home, but it doesn't need to be. We can name it whatever. Doesn't matter if I change this. Is that gonna matter? Just change the name of the file.
Well, if you change this name, do you have to, that doesn't have to be the same.
Doesn't.
The only thing that matters is the folder app root. Right?
Nope. If I change this, is that gonna matter?
I feel like it should.
I feel like it should. But it doesn't. So let me explain what's going on and why none of that matters. If you guys had built, this is where like history can be useful. If you had built like a lot of JavaScript apps in the past, you might have started to use a tool like Gulp or Grunt or Webpack. And the purpose of those tools is to take all of your JavaScript and CSS and HTML and compile them, uglify them, and make them very small, as well as do things like compiling TypeScript to JavaScript and Sass to CSS and some other things like that. But those compilers, what they do generally is you write your code in small files, relatively small files, and then it compiles all of those files into a single file of JavaScript code. It basically just takes all the files and concatenates all of the files together into a single file, and then it's just one file. That's what happens with Stencil as well. So even though you're working in all of these directories with all these different files, in the end, Stencil is going to take all that code and just push it all into one file. Okay. But they all get namespaced and closed up correctly and all of that, so your variables aren't leaking out of the classes. And as a result of that, it doesn't matter because what it's actually doing is looking for that tag name that it's being decorated with. It never actually cares about the class name, and it never cares about the file name or the app directory, or the directory that the file's in, because it's all going to be in one file. You're just going to end up with an app.js file. So nothing else matters. So the directory name doesn't matter, the file name doesn't matter, class name doesn't matter. It's all just one JavaScript file that's available for you to build from. It's slightly more complicated than that in reality, because Stencil does some things that make it so that it only loads the pieces that need to be loaded. So it's actually like, basically instead of having, if you had 15 JavaScript files, it becomes 5, but it puts the things that go together in the same file and then only loads the ones that matter. It's performance things, we'll get into all that later. But the way to think about it, and this is how the historical stuff worked, is that it just compiles all of your code into one file, and so it doesn't matter what the name of the class or the file or the directory are.
So like in index.html there, even though it says app root, it doesn't matter.
So app root matters. So here, let me go back through.
Oh, what? Oh, we didn't change app root.
We didn't change app root. So app root, this tag matters a lot. But that's because this is a component. It's referencing app root, but we can change the name of the file for app root. Was this app root? This might have been app root. But what didn't change is this right here.
Okay.
This is what matters. That's all that matters.
I got you.
Does that make sense? All right. So, and then if you look, you'll actually see what you're loading in for your JavaScript file is just app.js. You're not loading in slash app dash root slash app dash root.js. Okay. And so what's really happening is it's all getting compiled to app.js, and you can actually go look. Build. So here's the app.js file, which then does all kinds of crazy dynamically adding blah blah blah. You'd have to follow this deeper and deeper. But in the end, it's all one file. Okay, it's basically one file. What do you think about it? Right. So the point there, though, is that the tag is the only thing that matters. The other things don't matter. You should, for the purpose of convention and sanity, make them all the same. But it's very much the same in the same vein as we make person the same for our properties. Questions about that? All right. I showed you guys last time, right? Just to make sure the Ionic framework and how you can get like all these Ion label, pretty things, sliders, whatever. Get Ionic framework. I should put and then go to UI components. I'll just put this into the Slack channel. Where are you guys?
Should be a fall, right?
I don't have Sam.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Oh, the fall interns is just us.
That's
Yeah, get that inserts, yeah. Oh, okay.
where we talk shit about Sam.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. Well, yeah, I mean, I already split you guys out from the summer devs and that your dev interns and their junior devs, but whatever. I just left you guys in dev interns so you can see all the historical of them talking to each other. But the UI components piece gives you all kinds of stuff. You get popovers and modals and segments and tabs and toolbars and contents and scroll varies and badges and all kinds of pretty stuff. Okay, but they give you the instruction on like, here, do you want to make a pretty button? This is how you do that. Okay. They also have icons, and you can go to Ionicons and search for any Ionic. And it shows you, this is all you have to do. You can just copy that code that's right there and put it into your stuff. And you get whatever pretty icon you want of all of these icons. Okay. So that's those pieces. Any questions about that?
So Ionic is essentially the same thing as like Bootstrap.
Yeah, that's how we use it anyway. Ionic actually was historically intended to be a more all-encompassing thing that did building to mobile apps and did the framework piece and did all kinds of stuff. But now, yeah, we basically just use that Bootstrap. Yeah. Okay. Questions about that? All right. So we're actually going to cut it relatively short today and let you guys go start working on your stencil apps. Tomorrow we'll get into using listen and events. And what that looks like in Stencil, which is a pretty powerful tool. But then you should have, and then on Wednesday, we'll get into rebuilding those fetch commands that we did using classes. Because now that we have TypeScript, we have proper classes, and I can show you how to set that up, and I can give you access to what we do for that currently to make your life a little easier and faster. Okay. All right. Cool? Everybody good? Sky? What's the matter, bud? Is your Ruby mind still not working, or you just lost stuff?
Some push updates.